What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Primetime Sports Podcast, hosted by Joe Millari. So in this episode, I'm going to break down my final two mock drafts. It seems like I've done a million of them at this point, but they're fun to do at the end of the day. It's obviously tough to predict where these guys are going to go, but that's the beauty of the NFL draft. So I'll give my final two mock drafts. We'll start out with Caleb Williams going number 1 to the Chicago Bears. Not really a surprise. This is my mock 8.1, and then I'll give my mock 8.2 at the end. Then at number 2, I have Jaden Daniels, quarterback out of LSU, going to Washington. Then at number 3 in this mock, I have the Patriots taking J.J. McCarthy. I think it's 50-50 between McCarthy and May right now. I know my mock 8.2, I have May going to the Patriots at number 3, but I'm leaning McCarthy right now. If I could change that, I would, but I already did the home mock draft, so I'm not going to change things around. So at number 3 in this mock 8.1, I have McCarthy going to the Patriots. At number 4, I have Marvin Harrison Jr. going to the Cardinals. At number 5, I have the Chargers staying put and getting their wide receiver 1, getting Malik Nabers out of LSU. Then at number 6, I have the Giants trading down with Minnesota. Minnesota jumping up and taking Drake May at the 6th overall pick. At number 7, I have the Chicago Bears trading up with the Tennessee Titans, and I have them taking Rome Odunze out of Washington. Then at number 8, I have the Raiders also trading up from number 13 with the Atlanta Falcons. And I have the Raiders going out and getting their quarterback of the future, Michael Penix Jr. I think they're going to be very aggressive in trying to find their quarterback, and I'm hoping they do that tonight. I think Michael Penix Jr. would be a great quarterback for them to pick. I think that would be a great landing spot in Vegas. Then at number 9, I have the Chicago Bears trading up from 9 to 7 with Tennessee. So this pick now is owned by Tennessee in this mock. And I have Tennessee taking Joe Alt, a tackle out of Notre Dame. That would be the second year in a row drafting an offensive lineman, but it is a need for Tennessee. At number 10, I have the Jets taking Olu Fashanu, a tackle out of Penn State. I know a lot of mock drafts have the Jets taking a wide receiver here, maybe Rome Odunze, or maybe even Brock Bowers, a tight end out of Georgia. But I think maybe getting an offensive lineman could be the right idea here for Aaron Rodgers. They did add Mike Williams in the offseason, so maybe wide receiver isn't the biggest need. I know they added Morgan Moses and also Tyron Smith to fix their offensive line, but they are getting up there in age, and Tyron Smith is an injury risk. So I think going out and getting Fashanu would be a good idea for them at tackle. Then at number 11, we have the Giants trading down from 6 to 11 with Minnesota. So now the Giants own this pick, and I have the Giants taking Terrion Arnold, a cornerback out of Alabama. If the Giants trade down, I think cornerback is the pick. They get a lockdown potential corner opposite Deontay Banks. That would be the second year in a row the Giants took a corner. Then at number 12, I have the Broncos taking Brock Bowers, a tight end out of Georgia. They would miss out on the Michael Penix sweepstakes. They would miss out on the Drake May sweepstakes here. So I have them taking a tight end, maybe best player available in their eyes. Then at number 13, I have the Atlanta Falcons picking Dallas Turner, an edge rusher out of Alabama. We had Vegas trading up from 13 to 8 with the Atlanta Falcons. So this pick would now be owned by Atlanta, and I would have Atlanta taking Dallas Turner out of Alabama. Then at number 14, I have Talizi Fuaga, a tackle out of Oregon State, going to the New Orleans Saints. I know defensive tackle could be something they go with, and maybe a potential edge rusher, or maybe even a wide receiver. You never know with them getting rid of Michael Thomas. But I do think tackle would be a good pick for them. I would not be surprised if they go out and got, let's say, Brian Thomas Jr. with this pick, but I do think tackle is a need for them. Offensive line is definitely a need considering guys are getting up there in age. Obviously, defensive line's a need as well, so I think they address one of those needs, offensive line or defensive line, with this pick. I know a lot of people are expecting them to go with one of those two, offensive line, maybe even defensive line, but I think wide receiver is an underrated pick for them. I would not be surprised to see them take Brian Thomas Jr. Then at number 15, I have the Colts trading down from 15 to 22 with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I have the Eagles taking Quinyon Mitchell at number 15, a cornerback out of Toledo. Cornerback is a need for this team. I think my guy out of the cornerback position in this year's draft, I think Terrion Arnold and Quinyon Mitchell are probably tied. I'm very high on both those guys. If I had to pick one, I'd probably side with Mitchell, but I think both guys can be very successful in the NFL. The Eagles need help at corner, so it would make sense for them to trade up, maybe get one. Then at number 16, I have Byron Murphy II, a defensive tackle out of Texas, going to Seattle. They still need help on their defensive line. I know they brought back Leonard Williams, but it would make sense for them to add to that and maybe get a guy for the future. At number 17, I would have Jacksonville trading down from 17 to 20, and I would have Pittsburgh trading up to get J.C. Latham, a tackle out of Alabama. At number 18, I have Troy Fatanu, a tackle out of Washington, going to the Cincinnati Bengals, which the Bengals do need help at tackle, but they need help at wide receiver. I would not be surprised to see them get a wide receiver if they were to get rid of, let's say, T. Higgins. At number 19, I have Leatu Latu, an edge rusher out of UCLA, going to the LA Rams, so he stays home in LA, going from UCLA's campus to SoFi Stadium. Then at number 20, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers trading up from 20 to 17, so the Jacksonville Jaguars would now own this pick, and I would have them taking Johnny Newton, a defensive tackle out of Illinois. Then at number 21, I would have the Miami Dolphins taking Chop Robinson, an edge rusher out of Penn State. With concerns about Jalen Phillips staying healthy and obviously Bradley Chubb having his injury issues as well, defensive line could be the move for them there, getting a pass rusher. So I think Chop Robinson could be a good value pick for them there at 21. I've seen him go, let's say, even as high as 15. I've seen him go at 25. He falls at 21 here to Miami in this mock. Then at number 22, we have the Indianapolis Colts, which they traded down from 15 to 22. So I have Indianapolis taking Jared Verse, an edge rusher out of Florida State, with this pick. At number 23, this pick is owned by the Giants since they would be trading down from 6 to 11 and 23. We'd have Minnesota trading both of those picks, 11 and 23, with the Giants to move up to number 6. And I would have the Giants taking Brian Thomas Jr., a wide receiver out of LSU, at 23. They need help at receiver. I think Daniel Jones is still the guy, in my opinion. You have to surround him with the number one receiver. The Giants haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver since Odell Beckham Jr. in 2018, which obviously just proves and shows that Daniel Jones hasn't had the help he's needed. He hasn't had a wide receiver one at any point during his tenure with the Giants. Obviously, Kenny Golladay was a swing and a miss, which I wasn't a big fan of that deal when it happened, and obviously the Giants did miss there. He only had one touchdown in his Giants career. Brian Thomas Jr. didn't meet with the Giants during the draft process, which I didn't find out about that until after I did this mock draft, but I didn't want to change things up, so I left Brian Thomas Jr. going to the Giants at 23. Then at 24, we have the Cowboys addressing the line, taking Tyler Guyton, a tackle out of Oklahoma. At 25, we have the Packers taking Nate Wiggins, a cornerback out of Clemson. At number 26, Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback out of Alabama. Going to the Tampa Bay Bucks, they need help on their defense. I think that ends up being the pick for them, is something on their defense, but I do have them taking a receiver in some mocks as well, so it's either wide receiver, cornerback, or edge rusher for them. At number 27, I have Amarius Mims, a tackle out of Georgia, going to the Arizona Cardinals. I think there is a big risk with this guy, but at the same time, the Cardinals could potentially take a big swing to potentially hope things work out there. When you take him at 27, it's not as big of a risk as it is when you're taking him at 15. At number 28, we have the Buffalo Bills taking A.D. Mitchell, a wide receiver out of Texas. I know a lot of people are taking a wide receiver for the Bills because they traded Stephon Diggs. With that being said, I would not be surprised to see them take a defensive back. At number 29, I have Cooper DeJean, a safety out of Iowa, going to the Detroit Lions. At number 30, I have the Ravens taking Darius Robinson, an edge rusher out of Missouri. They did lose a lot in their defense, including Patrick Queen, so maybe linebacker, edge rusher, cornerback, maybe even offensive line and wide receiver. All of those things have to be addressed for them in the draft at some point. At number 31, I have the San Francisco 49ers taking Xavier Worthy, a Texas wide receiver. I think they're going to trade Brandon Ayuk at some point. So I think maybe taking a receiver with this pick to replace him would be a good idea. And Worthy is an absolute jet, a great 40-yard dash. I think it was a 4.21 40-yard dash, the best in combine history. And then to round out this mock, I would have the Chiefs taking Xavier Legette, a wide receiver out of South Carolina, addressing that wide receiver need there for Patrick Mahomes. Then in my last mock, 8.2, this is my final one, the last one I'm going to do. I have the Bears taking Caleb Williams at number 1, Jaden Daniels at number 2, Drake May to the Patriots at number 3. I honestly wish I went J.J. McCarthy with this one, but I ended up going May. I ended up biting all of the rumors and the reports that were around Drake May going to the Patriots at number 3. I'm going to leave Drake May going here, but as I've said, it's probably 50-50 between May and McCarthy. At number 4, I have the Cardinals staying put and taking Marvin Harrison Jr., giving Kyler Murray a number 1 weapon. At number 5, I have the Chargers trading down with the Denver Broncos. I have the Broncos taking J.J. McCarthy, a quarterback out of Michigan. I think the Denver Broncos are going to be aggressive. Obviously, with those picks, 11, 12, 13, you have Minnesota, you have Denver, and you have the Raiders, 3 teams that I think are going to be aggressive to go out and try to find a quarterback in this year's draft. I think Denver ends up being the team that trades up in this mock, and they end up getting J.J. McCarthy at number 5. Then at number 6, I have the Giants taking Malik Nabers, a wide receiver out of LSU. Like I've noted, I think Nabers is 1A, and I think Odunze is 1B in my eyes. I think both guys are going to be superstars in the NFL. I'm very high on both players. I think Nabers can be like Jamar Chase, honestly, just step into the league and make a statement right away. And then when I watch Rome Odunze play, his ability to make plays on contested catches is just special. So if the Giants took him, I would be psyched with this pick. Honestly, I'm leaning, the Giants taking Odunze in this moment while I'm filming this. I would love to see the Giants go out and get him. But if they get Nabers, I would be psyched as well. Either guy I would be happy with. But right now, just for some reason, I'm leaning Odunze, just thinking about having a big receiver that's 6'3", 6'4", that can use his body, can make contested catches. That's what Daniel Jones needs. But we'll see how things work out. But in this mock here, I have Malik Nabers going to the Giants at 6. I would love to see that happen. I think he's a home run hitting wide receiver. At number 7, I have Joe Alt, tackle out of Notre Dame, going to the Titans. Then at number 8, I have an interesting pick. I have the Falcons taking Terrion Arnold, a cornerback out of Alabama. I think defensive back would be an underrated addition for them at this pick. Arnold can step into the league and make a difference right away. I would not be surprised to see them pair Arnold up with A.J. Terrell. Then at number 9, I have the Bears taking Rome Odunze out of Washington. This would be an interesting pick. They could go a lot of ways with this, whether it's edge rush or maybe even offensive line at number 9 if a guy falls they're really a big fan of. But I'm going to go with Odunze. I think if you add Odunze to that offense and you have Keenan Allen, you have DJ Moore in Odunze, you're surrounding Caleb Williams with great weapons all around. So I think that ends up being the pick. That's my final pick there for the Bears is Rome Odunze at number 9. Then at number 10, this is interesting, which I was really trade happy in my last mock I did, 8.1, that I just recapped. This one, 8.2, has less trades, but I got a unique one in this one. And in this mock 8.2, I have the Jets trading down from 10 to number 19, and I have the Rams jumping up to number 10 to jump the Vikings and jump the Raiders, and I have them taking Michael Penix Jr., a quarterback out of Washington. I think the Rams are looking at the Matt Stafford situation, knowing maybe he has one more year being their starting quarterback, maybe 2 years, who knows. Maybe they go out and get Michael Penix. I know he's 24 years old. I know the injury history is a worry. I think this kid's passing ability is something you can't pass up. There's a chance he falls out of the first round because of the injuries. Yes, teams might be fearful of that and worry about that. Every single year there's a guy that's projected to be a high pick and they end up falling all the way out of the first round. We've seen it with Will Levis. We've seen it with another guy in Malik Willis, 2 guys that the Titans took. We'll see what happens in this year's draft. Somebody's going to fall out of the first round probably that people aren't expecting. I think Penix, though, ends up being a guy that surprises. I think he ends up being a guy that could be taken top 10. I would not be surprised, though, if he does fall out of the first round because of the medicals. I know that's something that's valued for a reason. I get it at the end of the day, but when you watch Penix's film, this kid can throw the ball around better than anybody in this year's draft, and that's why I still have him being a top 10 pick. If I'm wrong about it, at the end of the day, what can you do? I've believed in this kid now for 2 years. I'm not going to give up on him now. I believe this kid deserves to be a top 10 pick in this year's draft. Then at number 11, I have the Vikings taking Dallas Turner, the best player available, an edge rusher out of Alabama. They would be taking the best player available here. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback just to do it. If they miss out on Penix and they miss out on McCarthy and they miss out on May, I don't think they take Bo Nix just to take Bo Nix. I think he ends up falling deeper in this draft. I don't think they take him at 11 just to do so, maybe at 23. We'll see when we get to the end of this mock, but I have them taking Dallas Turner here at number 11. At number 12, I have the Denver Broncos trading up from 12 to 5, so this is now the Chargers pick at number 12, and I have the Chargers taking Brock Bowers, a tight end out of Georgia, so they don't get that number 1 wide receiver for Justin Herbert, but they get a number 1 tight end and a number 1 receiving option potentially for Justin Herbert. Then at number 13, I have Quinyon Mitchell, a cornerback out of Toledo, going to the Raiders. I don't think they take Bo Nix just to do so here. I think they take the best player available in their eyes, and that ends up being Quinyon Mitchell. They've needed help in their secondary for years. I know they've tried to address it in the draft before, and they've missed on guys. I think they take another shot here with Mitchell. At number 14, I have Olu Fashanu falling all the way to 14 here to the Saints. I think they address that offensive line like I've already noted. Then at number 15, I have the Colts addressing their defensive line, taking an edge rusher and Jared Verse out of Florida State. At number 16, I have the Seattle Seahawks taking Byron Murphy II for the second mock draft in a row, going to the Seattle Seahawks to help out their defensive line. At number 17, I have Johnny Newton, a defensive tackle out of Illinois, going to the Jaguars. So that's now 2 mocks in a row. I have the same guy going to the same team, Murphy going to the Seahawks. And then I have the Jags taking Johnny Newton at number 17. At number 18, I have Brian Thomas Jr. going to the Bengals, a wide receiver out of LSU. Would not be surprised to see them go out and get a wide receiver in this year's draft. I think T. Higgins has a chance of being traded at some point. So I have them going out and getting a receiver to try to replace him potentially. Then at number 19, we had the Rams trading up with the Jets. So now this pick is now owned by the Jets. And I have the Jets getting a tackle to help out Aaron Rodgers. I think tackles are going to be a very popular pick in this year's draft. I think even probably more towards the middle of the first round, towards the end of the first round. And in this situation, the Jets would see the draft falling the way it did and say, okay, we could still get a good tackle at 19 potentially. So they trade down here in this mock with the Rams. And I have them taking Fuaga, as I said, to potentially be a tackle for them in the future, which he might not play right away. Maybe they just go with Moses and Tyron Smith. But like I've noted, they're both getting up there in age and there's injury risks. So Fuaga could be a good pick for them. Then at number 20, I have the Steelers taking a shot on their offensive line, taking Troy Fautanu, a tackle out of Washington. At number 21, I have the Green Bay Packers jumping up from 25 to 21, and I have them taking J.C. Latham, a tackle out of Alabama. So Green Bay would be jumping up here with Miami to take J.C. Latham. He'd be falling all the way to 21 at this point in this mock, and I think maybe Green Bay would be looking for their potential replacement of the future for David Bakhtiari, so maybe they take a shot on Latham. Then at number 22, I have the Eagles taking a cornerback, and that's Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. Cornerback is a need for them. I think secondary is probably where they go in the first round. Then at number 23, I have the Vikings taking Bo Nix, quarterback out of Oregon. So now they get potentially their quarterback of the future if they believe in him. I think they take him here at 23. At this point, it's not as bad of a risk when you're taking a guy at 23 than you would at number 11. You've already got Dallas Turner at number 11. With this pick here, you'd be getting Bo Nix at 23, which it's worth a shot to try to see if he can be the quarterback. I still think I'd probably favor Sam Darnold over Bo Nix, but I guess you never know at the end of the day. At number 24, I have Jackson Powers-Johnson going to the Dallas Cowboys, so he'd be the center for them, potentially. He was very good at Oregon during his career. I do think Dallas addresses the offensive line. They need help there with potentially one or two positions, so that ends up being the pick now in 2 straight mock drafts that I've just done in this episode. Then at number 25, I have Miami taking Laiatu Latu, an edge rusher out of UCLA. Somehow, someway, he falls all the way to 25 in this mock. I've seen him go as high as 10. I've seen him go as low as 32 in some mock drafts. I guess it's really hard to project where this guy goes. But in this pick here, I have the Dolphins taking an edge rusher in Latu. This would be the second mock draft in a row in this episode where I have them taking an edge rusher. At number 26, I have the Tampa Bay Bucks taking Chop Robinson, an edge rusher out of Penn State. At number 27, I have the Commanders trading back in here with the Arizona Cardinals, and I have them taking A.D. Mitchell, a wide receiver out of Texas. Then at number 28, I have the Buffalo Bills taking Kool-Aid McKinstry, a cornerback out of Alabama. At number 29, Cooper DeJean, a safety out of Iowa. With that Kool-Aid McKinstry pick to the Bills, I know wide receiver is a popular pick for them, but they lost a lot in their secondary this offseason, including a guy like Tre'Davious White, including Micah Hyde potentially. He's a free agent if I remember right. And then they also lost Jordan Poyer as well. So I do think they could potentially add to their secondary with this pick. I know it's not a popular one. I know a lot of people are expecting Whiteout, but I would not be surprised to see a defensive back taken there. 29 was Cooper DeJean out of Iowa to the Detroit Lions. Then at number 30, I have the Ravens taking Keon Coleman, a wide receiver out of Florida State, that I'm a very big fan of. I think this kid can be an absolute stud in the NFL. I saw him play against BC. Has very good body control and makes hard catches look pretty easy. I think he'd be a good pick for the Ravens there at number 30. That would be the second year in a row they took a receiver in the first round, obviously taking Zay Flowers last year. And if they take Keon Coleman this year, that would be another ACC wide receiver for them for the second straight year in a row. Then at number 31, I have the San Francisco 49ers taking Xavier Legette, a wide receiver out of South Carolina. I think this could be legit. I think they could trade Brandon Ayuk. I think that's a legitimate possibility. So I think going out and try to replace him at the wide receiver position at number 31 could be their move. And then at number 32, I have the Chiefs taking Amarius Mims, a tackle out of Georgia who has a high ceiling, but obviously has a lot of risk. And they're in a position, like I've already noted, where they can just take a guy just to do it and take a shot and take a swing because they don't have that many holes, and they obviously have a good team already. So they can take a gamble on a guy and see how things work out. So they have a gamble there on Amarius Mims at number 32. And then I did some draft simulations, and I want to just mention 2 of them really quick. So I simulated the entire NFL draft and drafted for the Giants. In one of my mocks, the Giants trade down from the number 6 pick to number 13 with the Raiders. I have them taking Terrion Arnold out of Alabama with the 13th pick. I have them also adding the Raiders' first-round pick in 2025 as well. And I also have them adding Xavier Legette at 47. I have them adding Cole Bishop, a safety out of Utah at number 70, a versatile safety, and safety is a need for the Giants. At number 107, I have the Giants taking Audric Estime, a running back out of Notre Dame. Running back's a need as well. And then at 166, I have the Giants taking Eric All, a tight end out of Iowa, which could be a need for them potentially if Darren Waller does not come back. Then in my other simulation I did that I'm going to mention, which I've done this now for a couple years in a row, and I ended up being right on a couple picks the last few years. I got Deontay Banks right last year for the Giants. I got Daniel Bellinger right for the Giants a couple years ago. So I have had some success with the Giants in simulations over the past couple of years. So I draft for the Giants, let all the other 31 drafts for the other teams just be computerized, and I draft for the Giants and see how things work out. Like I've noted, I've gotten a couple picks right for the Giants over the last couple of years. I got Deontay Banks right last year, which was great. We'll see what I do in this year's draft. And my last simulation I just did just a minute ago, I had Malik Nabers to the Giants at number 6. I had the Giants staying put and taking Nabers. At number 47, I had the Giants taking Mike Sainristil, a cornerback out of Michigan. Like I've noted, a kid from Everett, Massachusetts. Would be a great story to see him on the Giants. I rooted for him at Michigan. Being able to root for him at the Giants would be awesome as well. At number 70, I have Christian Mahogany, an offensive guard out of Boston College, going to the Giants. God is a need for the Giants. Mahogany did have some injury issues at BC, but the talent and the ability is there. He could potentially be a steal for the Giants if they were to get him. At number 107, I have Cade Stover, a tight end out of Ohio State, going to the Giants. Tight end could be a need. I do think Darren Waller does retire, so I do think the Giants could address that at some point in this year's draft. He's a guy that has a good frame, good size, can block as well, has good hands, Had some good games at Ohio State. Would not be surprised to see the Giants take him. Then at number 166, I have the Giants taking Marshawn Lloyd, a running back out of USC that I've already mentioned in my last episode. And then at number 183, I have the Giants taking Gabe Hall, a defensive tackle out of Baylor, to try to help out on the defensive line, which they still are looking for some depth there at some point in the draft. Anyways, that'll wrap up this episode. Hopefully everybody gets to enjoy the NFL draft. I hope every single team that you guys are a fan of drafts a player you want. But obviously, draft season is a great time of the year. It's something I look forward to every year. Excited to see Mel Kiper's best players available. He's the best in the business for a reason. He adds a lot of hype to the NFL draft. Definitely makes it more exciting to watch. Excited to see what happens in this year's draft. There's always something that's unexpected that happens in the NFL draft, whether it's a guy falling all the way to the end of the first round or there's a crazy trade up. At some point, something crazy is going to happen. So hopefully everybody gets to enjoy it. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this. As always, I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you and enjoy the draft.